disparate group of individuals takes refuge in an abandoned house when corpses begin to leave the graveyard in search of fresh human bodies to devour. The pragmatic Ben, played by Dwayne Jones, does his best to control the situation, but when the reanimated bodies surround the house, the other survivors begin to panic. As any semblance of order within the group begins to dissipate, the zombies start to find ways inside, and one by one, the living humans become the prey of deceased ones. If you haven't guessed it yet, we watched Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 horror fucking classic.
All right, witches, strap in, because if you haven't put this together yet, this movie is about to get spoiled. So get ready.
So Emily, why don't you start with, let's say, one positive thing about your day.
Or week.
Or week.
Yeah, I actually got 2 solid nights sleep.
Fuck yeah.
And by solid, I mean more than 5 hours, but that counts.
If you were a cocktail, what would you be?
I think I would be a Manhattan because I like to think it's fancy, but on the inside, it's just a little bitter. And people also think it's fancy, but nobody really likes it. I'm just gin in a fucking sippy cup at a baseball game. That's what I am. I'm fucking smuggled gin.
Oh my goodness. Hello, I'm Blaine. One positive thing that happened this week is I got a new bed. And let me tell you, my sleeping experience heretofore has been nil. We got, whenever we lived in Oregon, we got one of those Amazon spring beds that had one of those metal frames that you didn't need a box spring for. And so that's what we've been sleeping on for 6 years.
Get it.
And so just yesterday we got our Nectar mattress, and this is not an ad for Nectar. And last night it felt like I was just jizzing all night long.
That is both hot and informative.
Yes.
And what about a cocktail, Blaine?
Okay, so I'm going to be real with you. If I were a cocktail, I want to say that I would be like a pickle martini, but I'm not. I am a quick and dirty screwdriver.
Oh.
My name is Stephanie, and one positive thing from my week is that I had afterglow from a Halloween evening well spent. It was safely done, but very enjoyable. And if I were a cocktail, I would want to be like one of those lychee fancy cocktails, but the reality is I am a mini bottle of Fireball.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
The plastic
with a Prosecco
bottle
chaser.
With a Prosecco chaser, the plastic bottle you get from a Wise there's a grab box. Everybody's dirty ass hands all on it. That's what I am. That is who I am. That's literally.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
I don't want to be this person, but I have many a fun fact for this.
I'm so excited. Give us all the
glad
fun
you
facts.
do. We obviously went on a little hiatus, and I just kind of wanted to let everybody know what was going on. So I haven't been having a great go mentally. I had to take a break for my mental health. It was really important that I prioritized that, and luckily I do this podcast with my best friends, and they were just like, fucking yes, take care of yourself. And that's what I did. And I'm feeling better, but I think it's fair that we're all a little depressed right now. And I have historic issues with depression and anxiety. You should do it if you need to, because it's fucking rough out there.
We will do that again and again because we do this because we love each other. There's a couple things that are really interesting. And for our listeners, the cool thing about Night of the Living Dead is not only there's just a lot of information about it because it ended up being such a success, but really the road to success was a tough one. There were a lot of things that happened in the production of this film. So one interesting thing, Night of the Living Dead is in the public domain because of an error in the credits. So it is one of the more famous public domain movies of all time, but it wasn't actually meant to be. The organization that distributed the film wanted to release it under a title which was not the actual title it has now, which is Night of the Flesh Eaters. But the lawyers representing the makers of that movie threatened, there was actually a 1964 film called The Flesh Eaters, threatened a lawsuit, so the title was changed to Night of the Living Dead. And with that change, though, the copyright notices weren't added to the opening titles or end credits, so that's why the film is a public domain. During the production, because they were not married to any name for this film, so during production, the title of the film was still being chosen, and the working title was Monster Flick and Night of Anubis. And
that would have busted my shit. Like,
Yeah.
no.
it premiered at the Fulton Theater in Pittsburgh on October 1st, 1968. The first investors only put like $300 into it. Another investor was actually a butcher who gave blood and guts.
Cute.
Dwayne Jones plays Ben in this movie, and the character was originally written to be an angry white truck driver. We all know, well, a lot of us know that whenever Dwayne Jones showed up, Romero was like, no, he was just a great actor. I wasn't, he just happened to be black. And so I hired him for the part. And when Dwayne Jones read the part, that this guy was going to be like an angry, like nearly abusive truck driver, Jones tried to convince Romero to rewrite some of that anger out of the performance, being that he was a black man living in the late 60s. But Romero, he was like, no, I'm going to keep it in because it's like edgy, not listening to a black man's concerns at all. That anger remained in the film in a special scene that I get to discuss with you all. Sure enough, the film was released shortly after MLK Jr. was assassinated and only added to stereotypes about angry black men. Romero has since said he has regrets not listening to Jones, because of course, he regrets not being more sensitive to the racism Jones face. White creators working with people of color or any marginalized group have to be aware of the circumstances outside of their craft. Romero wasn't thinking about representation or equality when he booked Jones for the film. He was only looking for shock and awe, which is exploitation.
We can also maybe put a trigger warning on this, because if you're not familiar with the movie at all, we're going to speak deeply about race relations.
Yes.
In this
not
country.
only
it may not have been intentional when they filmed the movie, but god damn does it ring true today.
Yep. One last fun fact for Blaine Starts. So Tom Savini was originally hired by George Romero to do the makeup for the movie, and they were actually introduced when Savini auditioned for an acting role. So, and just for anyone who doesn't know about Tom Savini, he was part of why he was very successful with his gore and his effects is because he was a combat photographer in Vietnam. So he got a lot of up close and personal ideas for gore.
Can you imagine like processing your trauma through horror like that and being so viscerally just addressing it constantly?
That's crazy.
Vietnam and Korea, and then he had 2 National Geographic spreads actually based on that work, and he gave me my first camera. I mean, it rings in our family, pretty deeply, but never once did he speak about his experience.
Wow.
You guys are absolutely right to like face it so boldly and like viscerally is fucking incredible. And also like, are you okay?
But Blaine, why don't you get us started into this?
Yes, baby.
We open on a dirt road in what we know now is Western PA, just outside of Pittsburgh. And a lone car is driving through twists and turns. The music is fantastic. There's not often that opening music, like, I feel sets the tone for the actual movie.
Yeah.
But the opening music for this is absolutely gorgeous.
Can you do it? Like, what was it like? I forget.
Orchestra, like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Very like 60s, almost like schlocky.
Yeah, well, I know it was used for another of Romero's films.
This is an interview from Vice from 2018 with George Romero, and he said when he made his first film, when he made Night of the Living Dead, he had barely enough budget to complete the project, let alone a composer. And him and several friends had a production company called The Latent Image, which was surviving on producing music for beer commercials. And they partnered up with an audio company. They made songs titled Anticipation, Suspense, Sudden Shock, otherwise known as All the Sense by, what's the guy from Parks and Rec?
Dennis Feinstein.
One of the people was actually Donald Rubinstein from Night Riders and John Harrison from Creepshow.
Wait, do we have to pay for this?
Nah.
You shouldn't, because this is accidentally public domain.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So the car enters a cemetery that's really secluded, but is now a tourist spot. It finally stops, and we see siblings Barbara and Johnny inside. Barbara says they ought to make the first day the time changes the first day of summer. And I'm like,
Wait.
all right, Barbara, we got your number. You're just a basic bitch. They get out of the car, and Johnny obviously doesn't want to be there because it was a 3-hour drive to get there. And they are visiting their grandfather's grave.
Their
Yes.
fathers. I think
Sure.
it's their fathers.
They're bringing a wreath that says "We still remember." And as they leave the car, Johnny hears the radio come back on, and it was out of range for a minute. And the host comes back on and says, "Hey, we're having technical difficulties." And for some fucking reason, Johnny just decides not to listen any further and turns it off.
Sounds like a white guy.
Yes, exactly.
Typical.
And they walk through the cemetery and find the grave they're looking for. Barbara sits by the grave and prays. And Johnny is like, all right, church was this morning. And she keeps doing
Johnny.
it. All right, Barbara, like, I'm saying praying's for church. We got to get home. Thunder cracks and lightning strikes. And off in the distance of the cemetery, Johnny sees a guy in a suit wandering around, which is just, I love that. It's so ominous and it's so beautiful. And that's how I want every zombie movie.
I
Art.
love the word ominous and cemetery and man in a suit.
Perfection.
You know when you pick out like flashcards to make a story? It's like
Yes.
these are the flashcards that are to make the
It's
story.
the stuff my sexual fantasies are made
Yes, exactly. But just
That's
put a
right.
put like a vagina pump and a lesbian in there, and I'm done.
of. So Johnny tells a story to Barbara about the cemetery and ends up scaring Barbara because Barbara, again, is a dumb bitch and it doesn't take anything to scare Barbara. To me, Barbara not only means that you're, afraid of everything, it also means that you're a cunt. Johnny tells a story about how they used to visit the cemetery, and Barbara's like, "Stop it, Johnny, you're being ignorant." Johnny sees that she's scared, and Johnny gets super excited by that. Not horny or anything, but he's just like, "Hey, this is fun. Let's scare my sister."
Unfortunately, no one was horny.
This could have been the perfect stepsister porno.
It could have been that thing where we're not blood. I mean, we are, but no.
Nobody has to know. Yeah.
What have they done? Missed opportunities.
Roger Barrow, problem number 1, plot hole 1.
Hole.
The whole explaining about
Better
it.
dig
Okay.
those holes. That's the Shia LaBeouf. That's the crossover between Night of the Living Dead and Holes that I'm missing in this
I had a
one.
lot of moments where I thought about that movie as a young tween.
Oh, I love the
Oh,
word.
God.
Oh, that's horrible. I'm terrifying. I'm a monster. Go ahead.
So this is when Johnny says the infamous line, "They're coming to get you, Barbara," as he kind of follows her through the cemetery. And he refers back to the old man he had seen before stumbling through the cemetery. And he says, "Here's one coming," and leaves Barbara to pass this guy stumbling. And she's like, "Oh, sorry." And the man attacks Barbara, and Johnny ends up wrestling with the guy, but he ends up dying because he gets his head smashed against a grave.
Also, can I just say Johnny is the most killable name? If your name is
Oh,
Johnny and it's a horror movie, you should not even apply for that job.
Yeah.
You're gonna die first.
Yeah, Johnny Rose wouldn't last a minute in this fucking scenario.
If I may, fun fact, I'm assuming the S stands for senior, but William Heinzman based his character Saunter. William Heinzman is the very affable man zombie in the suit who killed Johnny, based on his character's walk on a film with Boris Karloff, the title of which he could not remember, but I think we know. Karloff played a man risen from the dead who walks with a characteristic ungainly saunter. So this motherfucker can't even make up his own goddamn dead man walk.
I do know it was super important to the filming that they were like, we never want it to look like the zombies, which they didn't call them zombies, but the undead, to never have to look like they're running. It always needs to be a consistent, slow, steady pace.
That's an interesting point because there is a zombie or a ghoul, as they are referred to in the movie,
Yes.
inconsistency. So to me, this specific ghoul that's chasing Barbara is a lot quicker than the others we see later.
What's almost more terrifying about these zombies is how normal they look, really, compared to what we really see recently as, CGI and special effects have evolved. this guy just looks like he's got a fucking nosebleed. Like he did too much cheap coke, which had cocaine in it.
Columbia
which
Bam
probably
Bam. Yeah.
existed.
Yeah, this man chases Barbara back to the car, but not before Barbara falls and loses her shoe like a dumb bitch, I said in my notes.
She's doing great.
What a dumb. She's a stupid bitch.
You stupid bitch.
You're a stupid bitch. Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? You're 12.
God, I haven't watched that video in so long.
Good.
So Barbara ends up wasting time looking at the ghoul instead of driving away when she gets in the car. And by doing that, she allows him to break in with he has time to find a brick and break the window before she's like, oh no, I have to run away.
My goddamn Barbara.
She's the fucking worst. So she releases the emergency brake and rolls away. Here's where I'm wondering, Barbara, do you have your license? Have you ever driven a car?
Oh, absolutely not.
No, there's no physical way Barbara has ever been in a vehicle.
Clearly not good at steering because she then runs into a tree and then she has to run away without her shoes back down a dirt road.
I'm living for the fashion in this film. I'm just saying. I love the retro shoes. I love the kitten heel. I love all the bullshit. I love that shit.
When she runs away from this ghoul, she spots a secluded farmhouse and she runs to that. She tries to get in through the front, but it's locked, so she runs around back and she enters the house and locks it behind her. I don't understand, like, why do you lock it behind you without knowing what's inside first? How are you more concerned with this one thing that is chasing you and you know is slow than with the complete unknown of a 3-story home?
Yes, and also
your brother, bitch.
Also, yeah, you don't. If my fucking
She's not a hero.
If my fucking brother were left out in a boot, I don't know. I'd be like, I don't know. Look, this is one slow old man. You're telling me you cannot overcome. George Romero made a point to make Barbara's character very weak. He told her specifically to, so here it is. I have the fun fact. One of the original ideas for the script before its many revisions called for Barbara to be a very strong, charismatic character. Instead, George Romero and the producers loved Judith O'Dea, this is Barbara, portrayal as a catatonic and terrified young girl, so they accommodated that part into the script. The idea of her being strong was only revisited in Savini's 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead. But this is why she is just almost painfully weak, and it's upsetting.
But here's the thing, it's not like any of the other women were super strong either. She looks around. She locks the door behind her when she enters the house. She doesn't know. And she looks around the house and she finds a knife. And that's when she goes to explore a little more. The house is trashed. She hears the ghoul that had been chasing her fumbling around outside and tries to dial 911 on the phone, but doesn't get a connection. Then she looks back outside and more ghouls have shown up. She goes up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs is the beautiful mutilated corpse, which is now famous from this movie. It's just two bulging eyes and a half-eaten skull. It's beautiful. So she sees that corpse, and she immediately runs outside again and is met by Ben, who rushes her back in and locks the door again. So he tries to ask her about the gas pump that's outside, but she can't speak. She is now catatonic, basically. He asks if she lives there, and again, she's mute. He sees the famous corpse as he goes up the stairs and says they need to get out of here and find other people. He looks for food to take with them.
When I see Ben, I mentally do this. I know this much is true.
Candles are lit.
I feel like we just need to take a moment of silence to
Appreciation.
Wait, a moment of silence. Hold on, everyone shut up. Okay, I'm done.
Are you jerking it right now?
Yes, for sure. But she's done.
So Ben is looking for food to take with them when they leave. Barbara sees that blood is dripping from the landing, and you can visibly see her just losing her marbles quietly. She finds Ben gathering food back in the kitchen and asks what's happening. And he tries to ask how many of them there are out there, and she just freaks out. And then he goes back outside and beats 2 ghouls with a tire iron. And if you have never had a wetter ass pussy, now's your time. I was ready to be like wet ass Pazuzu.
Oh, Pazuzu! Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's actually what I'm going to start referring to my vagina as, a Pazuzu.
You guys know I call my vagina a tchotchke.
I have a question. In a crisis, would you describe yourself as a Ben or a Barbara?
I hope a Ben, but probably realistically Barbara. I mean, maybe a bit of both. If we're talking zombies, I'm probably going to be like the ostrich version.
Your kid is not in the room, Emily.
Okay, then I'm a Ben.
Then she's Ben, yeah.
Yeah.
I would hope I would be the Barbara if you both were around. I'd be Barbara.
See, I think I would fluctuate between the two. Like, I would just be in and out of not only consciousness, but like survival mode.
Okay, I know exactly what you all would do. Are you ready? Okay, so you know when you take your CPR classes and they're like, you have to have someone that's designating. Like, you call 911. You do that. That would be you, Blaine. You would be you call 911, you do that. Stephanie immediately finds the victim and is like, are you okay?
Yes.
What do you need? Are you okay? How can I help? And I fucking just tried so hard to help, but immediately fell and like broke my collarbone. That I would be like, I'm smashing through a window to get these motherfuckers, and then immediately just mortally wound.
You would be screaming out, is there a doctor around? Is there a doctor around?
Stephanie would have found someone who's like catatonic and be like, oh, sweetie, if you're going to sleep, you should take off your makeup. And
yes.
Later, while we're wrapping up at a diner, I'm like, I should have stitches now.
A ghoul comes into the house and attacks Barbara, but Ben saves her. Ben and the ghoul wrestle, and instead of helping, Barbara
Bramble jam. Pambalam.
Barbara's fucking useless. Ben stabs the ghoul in the brain, and the ghoul stops. More are about to break in, but Ben locks the door once again. And that's when Ben takes the body outside and lights it on fire and realizes it's keeping the others away. So he goes back inside, and Ben says to turn more of the lights on, and he finds a hammer and nails, all while he's telling Barbara to find wood so that they can nail the place up.
Find that wood, Barbara.
Do this one goddamn thing. You still have your coat on, just
stay a while, bitch.
Look alive. She is simply dazed and looking around, and it's so fucking annoying.
It is. She is weak, and her hair is fierce.
Yes.
Why does
it move an inch throughout all of this?
Yeah, she should be looking a little beat. And she looks dope.
You know that fucking 1968 hairspray was some fucking paint thinner that never went away. Like, that stayed with her for years.
What do they use in the movie Hairspray? What's like the brand? It's not Aquanet, but it's whatever Aquanet was supposed to be.
Was it Aquanet?
No, it was like a made up thing for the show for the fucking thing. Whatever Tracy Turnblad used. That's the joke. Yes. That's Barbara. What it is. Insert punchline here, folks. So choose your own adventure tonight.
So she's useless. She's just wandering around picking things up and looking at them, and then she gets distracted by a music box. Because of course. She finds like some tiny ass stakes from the fireplace. So it's like already ruined wood, and she's like, here, take these.
I get it.
And like she helps Ben nail the door shut by just simply standing there. So then that's kind of when she like collapses back on the couch in a catatonic state, and Ben says he learns the ghouls are afraid of fire. He tries to talk to Barbara but ends up monologuing. He says he saw a truck on the road with 10 to 15 ghouls hanging on, and they took it down. He can still hear the man screaming as the truck was on fire and the ghouls backed away. Ben ended up driving right through a bunch of them, and they wouldn't move.
Damn.
So, can you imagine? Can you fucking imagine? And then getting to this safe haven, and this tiny little frail white bitch is all you have to work with.
Damn. What a shitty night.
And so Barbara then feels empowered to talk about her struggle and how she didn't help her brother not die. And she talks about her experience and how she ended up at the house and ends up crying, and she's hysterical because of course she is. She's a woman. And Ben, throughout this entire time where she's recounting, what she and Johnny did and what Johnny said, and then the guy that attacked them, Ben is completely disinterested, and he's like, maybe you should just calm down. Which is so fucking awful, because this entire time he's spent so much energy trying to get her to talk, and when she finally does, he's like, nope, not like that. And so he's completely disinterested and tells her to calm down. She says that they have to go get Johnny. And she keeps saying this, and Ben's just ignoring her. So she gets up, and she's like, are you not listening to me? We have to go get Johnny. She tries to leave through the front door. Ben pulls her back, and Barbara slaps Ben.
Okay, but this is the part where I was hoping there was going to be some fucking, but it didn't work out that way. I was very upset.
And in response to Barbara slapping Ben, Ben slaps her back, and she just faints. So let's talk about that moment, not only between a man and a woman, but a black man being featured as a main character hitting a woman. Yes, she was in the wrong for slapping him, and he was trying to be like Cher, snap out of it.
Yes.
And that's where I think that just feels like it was that was just a necessary part of the movie.
I feel like he's trying to help her.
I feel like this is what George Romero is specifically referencing when he says that he wish he would have listened to Dwayne Jones.
Yep.
I think this is transparently, when you hear that, you're like, okay, yeah, you had a first time lead black man slap a young, beautiful white woman on screen. That, you should have listened to his concerns on that.
Right.
Now, I will say that I believe that George Romero to this day says that Dwayne Jones is probably cool with it. And you're like, but not though. I think that it was a product of the era in terms of this is when that was a common plot point of slap them out of it.
Yep.
That was just a common archetype in media at the time, that you just get, this is also the time where, you bump your head once, you forget something, you bump it again, you remember it again. That shtick was very in.
Yep.
So I think that to George Romero's, credit while writing this, not taking into account that it would eventually be written for a black man, I'm sure that was what he was relying on, but he should have edited when his product changed, when the script changed, when the cast changed, and he didn't, and that was a choice.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think it was malicious when it was written, but I do think that there is a responsibility to change.
Yep, absolutely.
They have the slap heard round the world.
Yes.
And Barbara immediately fucking dips out. She passes out, and Ben is like, thank God. Just some peace for once. Jesus. So he is like, I'm going to continue to board up this house. He decides to turn on the radio. They have this gorgeous radio. And the newscaster is describing a zombie apocalypse. Now, granted, we've mentioned this several times. They never say the word zombie, but I believe this is the first time that they say the word ghoul. I mean, as we all know, this is the OG zombie movie. So I just love that they leave that ambiguous. A newscaster is describing the apocalypse. So they're like, okay, it's not just this graveyard. Because up until this point, you're just kind of like, okay, so where the fuck is this coming from? So big ass horde of zombies decides to show up while Ben is fucking doing it all, by the way. So he decides that, he's learned that fire gets rid of these fuckers. He makes a fucking Indiana Jones style torch, lights like a lazy boy on fucking fire, and then just
I fucking love that.
I love it too, because that fucking chair would light up because it's made with fucking asbestos and shit. Yeah. It's all chemical. So that I feel like that was actually pretty accurate. So he MacGyvers the torch, throws it at them. it's safe to say, I wrote this in my notes because so we've watched this movie several times. Let me just throw that out there for our listeners. We kept pushing this episode back because I needed to. So we individually watched this movie so many times that like we watched this at the very beginning before people were voting. We watched this like the week before the election, and we're watching it tonight, which I'm actively waiting for an alert that they're going to call it.
Yes.
Yes.
So you can understand the tension in our notes as we go through this, and like obviously this commentary is going to run deeper. But I said I think we can all safely say at this point that about half of people would be like, the zombies are a hoax. I'm not living in fear.
Yes.
And fucking emails. So yeah. Yeah, it's just, this is such a classic, like, oh shit, we would not handle this well. So after boarding everything up all by his fucking self, Ben literally takes 2 seconds to like sit and smoke a cigarette before looking around the house and finding a fucking gun. Like he's like, to relax. All right, well, that was enough. And then finds immediately a gun. I mean, that checks out in PA, to be frank. Because I remember watching this movie when I was like relatively younger. I was living in New York and I was watching it with my roommates. It was New York, so you have like 100 roommates. They were like, who just has a gun in their front closet? I was like, my dad.
Yep.
I just love that it's like New York, so you're like...
Have you been to Western PA?
The roommates pop out of New York, like, out of the closet, like fucking Beauty and the Beast, like silverware.
I'm here for it. I love it, and I love that it checks out. So Barbara kind of like wakes up a little bit after, like, again... Ben has taken care of everything. So he like puts shoes on her to comfort her.
This blew my mind. I was like, the inexorbitant amount of patience he has with her.
This is where I don't believe that they didn't change the writing to involve a narrative of Black Americans. Because I think this is just a perfect allegory for like white people trampling over Black people forever and then being like, well, teach me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like how many times have we been like, explain this to me, to the Black community? And they're like, that's not my fucking job, but sit down, I'll teach you. So after we decide to protect Ben at all costs because none of us fucking deserve him, we discover some more deadies upstairs. So what do? We rely on Ben to solve our problems. He starts like organizing the dead, which is cute. And then it's confirmed on the news that they don't say zombies, but the dead are eating the flesh of the people that they kill. This is when it's established that they're hunting humans at this point. And of course, Ben's not there because he's too busy taking care of everything to get the chance to be, fully informed. It was good. And it was shot in PA too, which like is cool that we could totally visit here. So anyway, these fucking jabronis show up. Harry, Cooper, and Tom. They come upstairs as if they've just now realized that there's a radio in the house they're squatting in. Like you have to walk past it.
Well, not even that, but how are you just realizing that there are people in the house? Well, you're in the basement. You can hear everything.
They're so white that they're like, there can be no other.
This is America. I am Columbus. Yeah, I think Harry knew. I think that Harry knew that someone was upstairs and he heard them fighting off zombies and he was like, fuck them.
Yeah, better them than me.
Harry knew 100% because Harry's a fucking fuck.
Right. Who else was like completely just immediately annoyed whenever we saw these new people come up from the basement?
Ben is obviously too good for all these people and immediately calls them out and is like, hey, so you heard a woman screaming upstairs and you didn't want to come up and like help? So we learned that Harry Cooper's wife, Helen, and their daughter, Karen, are also in the basement along with Tom's girlfriend, Judy. And Ben, who was like rightfully fucking pissed off at the new members of their crew, insists that they board up the house and that they stay on the ground floor in order to have a chance at survival. Because this whole argument is like, if we're all down in the basement, they can like infiltrate us and there's no way out. So at least if we're on the first floor, we could like break through a window, break through a barrier, and like all take a different entrance and fight these people off or these things off. And Harry, I wrote in my notes, whom I hate. Nah, bro, let's stay in the cellar where there's only one way in and out. Like, what could fucking possibly go wrong? And
so, almost literally everything.
So are you both team cellar or team main floor? Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. If you're team cellar, you voted for Trump.
Yes.
I am team main floor because you can see what's happening and handle it as it is happening.
Right. Well, and I'm totally comfort getting my status on the backs of disenfranchised people.
Exactly.
You stay upstairs and protect me. I'm going to be downstairs where it's warm, comfortable, and I don't have to see it. Because that's
Yeah,
also another theme that's going to come up a lot, that Tom never actually looks directly at a ghoul. So
Really?
That's a good one.
I don't know if it's a fact, but it's something that I've noticed. So like,
Wait.
we'll dig into it,
Okay, keep
but
going.
it's not something that's like verified. It's just something that I'm like, this bitch won't even look at them. Tom sees that Cooper's wrong. So like, Tom is like, if your parents are Trump supporters and you go to college and one of your friends is gay and you're like, well, you're not, you don't seem bad.
Yeah, that's it.
You're
Yep.
Tom. You're
Yep.
Tom. But you also don't really give a shit because you do enjoy the privilege of where you stand. So Tom seems to know that Cooper is wrong and stubborn. He tries to poke back, but still addresses Harry as Mr. Cooper, showing a sense of pride and holding him above him. Tom even looks outside, taking a tally of the zombies mounting. Cooper chooses ignorance, not facing what fears him. Tom isn't ready to take on any emotional labor and putting that burden on Ben and Judy as he's used to doing with minorities and the women in his life. No adult man with that amount of bangs has a good penis. That's just it can't go past like a couple of inches. That's
No,
just,
there's no way. There's no way. It's more of a.
Any bangs at all, I'm like, sir.
Sir, have you considered your life?
More of a thumb.
Are you alive? Oh my god. So this is all occurring, and surprise, there's a zombie attack, and like double surprise, fucking Ben takes care of it for everybody. So then it quickly appeared like they're getting slammed with zombies. So there's a ton, and some of them are kind of sexy. Like, I'm just gonna say it.
I'll
They're
be
naked,
honest, like-
they're sexy. So Cooper is still fucking stubborn and argues that he must both be locked in a cellar with everyone else defending the ground floor and must also have access to all of the amenities on the ground floor while isolating from it. And he's like, we've got a right to food. And like, this motherfucker is 2 minutes away from straight up just being like, all lives matter. It's gross. And I hate him.
And Ben doesn't waste a second just being like, shut up.
Right. Because it doesn't matter who's on what floor if we're all fucking dead.
Yep.
So Cooper pulls the classic argument of think of the children, which like, P.S., we've already counted your kid as dead. First of all, you named her Karen, strike one. Second of all, you fucking just left her in the basement, you dumb fucking fuck. And third of all, you're her dad though, so she's dead. I mean, it's
That's pretty much
Yeah.
it.
She was
Called
doomed from day one.
from day one. I mean, it's just they fight off the horde. They live to see another fight, and Cooper goes downstairs to check in with the ladies in his life, and he pulls the class. He's like, I did it. I fixed it. I killed a bunch of zombies because I'm fucking.
And
dope.
Judy's having none of it.
Oh, none of it. She's like,
Nope.
you're a fucking liar. Who's upstairs? What do you mean there's a goddamn radio? And like, also, it is occurring to them that like, guess who's about to become a zombie? I mean, I just hope that she like has a girlfriend on the side, because like, she's never had an orgasm with this man.
No, she's never. She
No.
looks at him and she just gets cold inside.
So she even drops the line, which is great. She's like, it's important for you to be right, isn't it? When they're like talking about going upstairs. She also has this beautiful, we may not enjoy living together, but dying together isn't going to solve anything. Those people aren't our enemies.
Get the fuck out of
But
here.
at the same time, she still gave big 55%er energy.
Oh my God. She like told her friends that she was voting third party, but then she voted for Trump, which is like worse and worse. They go upstairs. It's very awkward. And then this is where we have this lovely Tom and Judy conversation where he's like, it's your job to take care of a young one, Judy. And she's like, this is dumb and I don't want to do it. And he's like, well, you're thinking with your lady parts again. Go tend to a child that's not yours.
Hey, listen, you and your vagina, quit flapping your lips. All said in the 1940s steel conglomerate tycoon accent.
He sends Judy back downstairs because of woman's work reason. It's a shit show. She to Barbara, that's what her name is now, is stroking. She looks like she's just like dropped ecstasy and it's just like stroking whatever feels fuzzy. Helen lights up a cig. We get some tension here. Like the way she looks at her, I'm like, ma'am, are you bringing her back to life? The plot just gets weird when it's revealed that Mr. Cooper is a carpenter and didn't board up the fucking house himself. So then he complains that they are both not boarded up enough and boarded up too much. The zombies can get in, but he can't get out, and that's bad in all areas. So this carpenter, hire him. He sounds great. Tom turns on the TV, and they're like obviously talking about zombies. It's not like Big Brother or something. Washington says that people have recently died, are coming back to life, and seeking human victims, which I do feel like we had a hint at that since they were coming out of graves earlier.
Oh, yeah.
But I like it. I'm here for it. The newscaster then drops an eerily familiar monologue, and I actually wrote it down. It's when this emergency first began, radio and TV was advising people to stay inside behind locked doors for safety. Well, that situation has changed, and we're able to report a definite course of action for you. Civil defense machinery has been organized to provide rescue stations with food, shelter, medical treatment, and protection by armed National Guardsmen. Stay tuned. So wear your masks. Advice can change. That's okay. That happens when shit gets crazy. Also, wouldn't it be like amazing if relief was organized that quickly?
Right?
Like, this is 8 months in, and we're like, could I have a test? I have lupus. And they're like, no, you should just see if you die first. So a satellite to Venus was carrying some zombie radiation on it. That's dumb. That equals zombies. In the original script, this was fleshed out a lot more, but it was cut because they didn't want it to be a sci-fi movie. You just get like this funny little nod into like zombie radiation. There's a disagreement on where the virus came from, which again feels fucking way too real. And then they're just like, how the fuck are we supposed? This then delves into the how do we escape? So how are we supposed to get out of here? We have, a sick child and then fucking women. So their boobies are gonna be all in the way.
Vaginas are bleeding. They're attracting the zombies. We know it.
They're like sharks. They can smell.
They can smell the menstruation.
And it's only a matter of time before the bears arrive.
Right. And then we're just gonna have to fuck them because like when you're near women, that's just what you have to do, and it's gonna get weird.
What happens is their nipples release milk when you go.
That is 100% true, actually.
So Tom is talking to Judy, and he's like, "Remember how we had the big flood and had to convince you it was right to leave?"
I need to fucking talk about how when Tom walks into the room to talk to Judy, he's just like, you've always got a smile for me. How can you smile so much? And then later at the end of the fucking back and forth, he's like, where's that smile? You should just show me your smile. And it's like, bitch, what do you want?
Bitch, also, there's zombies. I don't want to fucking smile right now. Can you imagine? You're in a zombie apocalypse and your man's like, give me that sugar, honey. And you're like, I'm gonna
Can I just honk a titty real quick, please? I would in the world.
Also, I have a fun fact that goes back to earlier scene where Ben was nailing. Yes, he was
nailing me.
Yeah, I wish. So Ben is nailing wooden boards to the door. Yes. You can actually see, this is more of a unexpected thing, but they had actually written numbers on the boards, and the reason was so they could be removed and replaced in between the shots and preserve the continuity. And the numbers are visible because some of them were nailed on backwards. So if you actually
love that.
Tom and Judy, after he's like talking about her motherfucking smile, we see Ben and Barbara, we have Cooper. Tom is like, okay, we got to get to the truck. We're going to go to the truck. We're going to put gas in the truck and we're getting the fuck out of here. And we're going to go and we're trying to find help. So Ben is like, obviously the helpful, amazing person he is, trying to be like, okay, look, I'll help you do this. Like, I think that's a good idea. Cause he's right. Like, look, they're just sitting in this house. They're sitting ducks. Let's try. This is the first bit of teamwork we actually experience in the whole film. Once they've devised this plan, Tom and Ben are going to make a run for the truck. Judy's being a fucking bitch and she can't handle it. So she's hiding in the house like, no, I can't. And Cooper is up in on the second floor and he has made some makeshift like Molotov cocktails. And I'm also like, hold on a minute. There was beer.
Right? You're telling me we're doing this sober voluntarily?
Please tell me that we would definitely board ourselves into the attic or like the second floor and like so that nobody could get in regardless of whether or not they were human, and we would just hoard all of the alcohol and just be like, fuck it, we'll designate a corner as the squat corner. Do what you
Yep.
need to do.
Also-
We're locked and loaded.
Cooper has Molotov cocktails, makeshift Molotov cocktails, and Ben comes out with the giantest table leg covered in fire I've ever seen. As they're trying to make their way to the truck, Cooper is throwing the makeshift bombs out around the truck. And I was like, you know, how are we expecting them to get to the truck if it is engulfed in flames? Because he was not like, I felt like it was just like, I'm just going to throw this willy-nilly.
Yeah.
There was no
and, like,
consideration.
And like at one point in this yeet fest, he yeets a Molotov cocktail like onto a zombie who becomes
Drink
covered in
twice.
flames. The fun fact here is 3 different crew members accidentally set themselves on fire during filming. So to add to the realism of the zombie attack scenes,
3 is a lot.
I
3
know.
is too many.
3 is enough.
Far too many. One is a lot. 2 is whoa, and 3 is, are you killing people?
Bill Heinzman, who played the cemetery ghoul, and another actor were set on fire during the scene. So they poured lighter fluid on a suit so he could be lit during the scene in which Ben wards off the ghouls with a torch. And in both cases, everything was going according to plan, but one fire was actually started by accident. So for the scene where Ben sets a chair on fire to distract the ghouls, the crew members, Gary Steiner, volunteered to coat the prop with gasoline. And everything was good for the first take, but second take, Steiner ran into trouble. He fucking lit his goddamn hand on fire, and he had Heinzman, the cemetery ghoul, had to rescue him and extinguish the flames before Steiner was seriously hurt. Cooper then runs down the stairs, and you see Tom run out and rip clothes very sexily off of a zombie. And then motherfucking Judy comes out. Judy reminds me of fucking Kirsten Dunst in Jumanji when I scream, Judy! And she comes out and runs to the car like, no biggie, I'm late to the party, but there's like 900 zombies running around. And all these zombies look like they go to the to that place that processes your deer meat in like low-key, really creepy areas of PA. Like all these people look like that.
No idea what you're
Yes,
talking
I
about.
hunt. I hunt the animals.
She pauses in fear like a deer. Also, no one buckles up. You know what? We have enough problems in the world. You can put a belt on. And Ben continues to ward off the zombies and climbs on the ghouls and climbs onto the back of the truck, and he sets these hoes on fire. They drive on. Also, what appears to be like arguably tremendously slowly considering active zombie followings. Like they're going like, let's go under the speed limit. There have been a lot of accidents this year in PA. Okay? You gotta really take a quick.
And it's hunting season. You got to be careful of the deer.
Everybody
That's
wearing
true.
orange? What's happening? So they get to a gas pump, and Ben actively shoots the gas pump because they can't open it. And I'm like, Ben, I love you, but for real?
Bless you.
And they douse the car in fuel, and obviously the truck fucking explodes.
Why?
Tom and Judy are in it. As Judy's like, my coat's caught. This is honestly my favorite part of the whole movie because I wanted to see Judy get eaten out this whole time. So Ben runs back to the house, and Cooper, before that, so Ben runs back to the house. Cooper was not letting him in, and then he finally lets him in and shuts the door, and they nail it shut, and then Ben fucking knocks him the fuck out. like
I
fucking
can just
like
picture
the way
you swinging, dukes up.
I literally thought he punched him like many times, and I literally wrote in my notes, 1, ha, 2, ha, 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 3, ha, ha. So this is my favorite part. The zombies find the wreckage of the Tom and Judy sandwich, and they start to eat that barbecue. We see the fun little effects, so they're picking out the intestines and the organs. So this is where that one fun fact comes into play of the donor that was actually a butcher that donated all of the animal parts. And so these are actually these people fucking licking all up on animal parts. So hence why this film probably has a very serious, off-putting porn following. Within like 1 minute of them finding these bodies, everyone has like a clean bone, like they're fucking the Flintstones.
So I know that the makeup artist at one point on this film said that this was the easiest job because the actors were so sick from like not like they didn't get food poisoning, but like so physically disgusted by all the like blood and guts that they looked very gaunt and ill already.
That's fucking
Fuck
awesome.
yeah, man.
One of the zombies is very clearly licking a hand covered in jelly. And Ben is now verklempt. He has had a day, and it's mostly trying to save all these fucking assholes. And Helen comes back upstairs, and Barbara's acting again like the goddamn fool that we are expecting of her character at this point.
Like, she might as well just be a stuffed animal.
She is.
Like,
She is.
what is she there for?
So Ben then proceeds to fill his gun with bullets. So Helen, she says they were just trying to get to a motel before dark. So she's like, we were just trying to get to a motel before dark. And it's like, bitch, nobody cares right now. Like, nobody cares. So she explains that the zombies had turned over their car and bit her daughter on the arm. And Ben is like, these things are diseased. Who knows what she's going to get? Then he proceeds to ask Barbara, because Barbara is rambling, if she has a car, and she's like, it doesn't matter. You can't start it because only I know the jiggle. Only I know the secret jiggle that my brother and I did when I used to take him off. We're not blood. So then we go back to the zombies having the all-you-can-eat buffet at Cactus Willie's, which was my dad's favorite fucking buffet place back in the day.
Of course. Okay, that's why you fucking get food poisoning all the time. My dad got food poisoning there on 3 separate occasions and went back for more.
I knew a girl in high school who worked at Cactus Willie's. Do not eat at Cactus Willie.
I don't think it exists anymore.
No, they
nipped
that in the bud. It's a DMV now, which is a delightful change.
So reasoning that some of the ghouls, because again, as we said, Romero never referred to them as zombies, would have woken up in the morgue and walked away naked, the crew actually opted for a single Living Dead extra to be nude on camera. So they enlisted a local artist model for the job. And when the word spread that the production actually planned this nude scene, it was one of those night shoots, obviously, local residents actually decided they wanted to watch this. And I mean, I was
so fucked up because in Western Pennsylvania, everybody is scandalized by that shit. But of course, there were those fucking assholes who were like, oh, well, I just need to see it for myself.
So the night they filmed the nude ghoul, all of Evans City, which is the place where it was filmed, found out about it. And they had lawn chairs set up around the edge of the property. The woman who played Judy said, and she said it was funny to see the rest of the zombies trying to keep their eyes elsewhere instead of looking down at the obvious fucking places on the nude zombie, which is AKA the genitals. And so that is a fun fact that is not that fun.
It's time to freshen up your face mask collection with Junkyard Backpack. Located on Etsy, Junkyard Backpack specializes in creepy crawly and super cool face masks. I got mine closer to the beginning of quarantine and shipping was so much faster than other places. So if you've been stuck with N95 or just the plain old blue face masks that you end up seeing on the sidewalk, also clean up your face masks. Don't just throw them away and be responsible. Anyway, these are ones you will not want to forget or throw away or litter with. Junkyard Backpack face masks are there's like 51 different styles, and it's so cute. And if you're into creepy stuff and you want to, be spooky out in public while also hiding your identity, that's the way to go. So Junkyard Backpack, all one word, on Etsy is where you should be. Enjoy!
But at this point, we are now at the newscast on the television for Clareton Fellows Memorial Hospital. And the government spokesperson warns all of the persons who died during this crisis will come back to life to seek human victims unless burned alive. So in Butler County, PA, law enforcement are searching out to destroy the marauding ghouls. I like the word marauding because Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm. I hate the word marauding because I went to Millersville and we were the fucking marauders.
Oh yeah, fuck that.
That's true. I did add. Also, can I just say all the men that were dressed as the zombie hunters, the ghoul hunters, this is a LL Bean catalog come to life. This is like a racist LL Bean catalog come to life.
So LL.
Apparently what is happening is, as they're explaining, this is a very long scene, honestly. They're explaining that the brain has been activated by radiation. So if you kill the brain, you kill the zombie, the ghoul. Chief McClellan, who just sounds like he definitely has offended many of his relatives at a Thanksgiving dinner, is screeching at his people while he's having a Rambo amount of bullets on his shoulder. And he said, quote, "If you have a gun, shoot him in the head, beat him, or burn him." They said, "How long until it's under control?" And it's almost like, how long does it take for Nevada to count the votes? And they say, slow moving, dead, all messed up. We're going to wrap this up in 24 hours, but we also don't know. So we're working our way around.
Who knows?
You know, we're going to be done in a day, but it could be years. So we're back at the house, and the lights have gone out, and we hear tell of a fuse box in the cellar. And Cooper says that Cooper, this is a shitty scene. Cooper then proceeds to tell his wife that he must get the gun away from Ben. And she says, "Haven't you had enough?" And I'm like, this is the quote of the century, is it not? Haven't you had enough? And the zombies are getting more and more ferocious. They're trying to beat their way into the house. At this point, you almost feel like where at one point they maybe didn't understand there were people inside, they now do. And also everyone looks like Willem Dafoe. Just everyone. Everyone is Willem Dafoe in this fucking movie. Everyone is Willem Dafoe, scarier than the last acting job that Willem Dafoe had. And Cooper,
The Lighthouse was so good.
Basically, it's everyone is a character from The Lighthouse in this fucking movie.
Which is two.
Which is two people. So it's just Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. And so Cooper is frozen in the corner, not helping, as, of course, obviously Ben is doing fucking everything. And Ben is trying to hold off the zombies, the gun, he loses the gun, and Cooper runs over, grabs the gun. They fight. Ben shoots Cooper and then looks at Helen, who gives not one solitary fuck, because she is getting fucking her titties, nipples tweaked by zombies right now. And Barbara
is how I wrote it in my notes.
Yeah, she's just like, but take it. And Barbara is fucking useless. Barbara's sitting there like, but I love panda bears. And she is right now.
To be fair, who doesn't?
Honestly, I love a dog in a panda bear costume. The part of this character that really we start to see here how she's so useless. So Cooper falls down into the basement with the gunshot in his abdomen. We see sort of slowly bits of transformation happening because he's dying actively. So we're seeing, I feel like we were seeing his eyes get kind of dark, and like the makeup was indicative that the transformation was going to happen pretty quickly. And he tries to grab onto his daughter in the most dramatic, like fucking Titanic woman throwing a fucking diamond off of a fucking boat.
Acting!
Acting! I have a gun. And so Helen finally goes downstairs. She's like, oh, whatever, is he dead? She goes downstairs, and Karen is obviously eating Dad, because yes. And she stabs her mom to death with a gardening tool.
I have a fun fact. That was supposed to be the other way around, but ratings shut it down. So it was supposed to be the father fell down the stairs, died immediately, and then eats the daughter, and you witness it. But they decided against it, which, like, good call. Yep.
I actually like that. I like better that the daughter ate the dad.
I think
as she is eating him and stabbing her mom to death with a gardening spade, there's just like, this is the only cool moment of like sound effects that are really interesting. There's like an echo of a scream, like some fucking dolphin echolocation shit. And I really dug it. It was like, as they're like stabbing.
It's eerie.
And Barbara and Ben are upstairs fighting for their lives. And by that I mean Barbara is basically hoping Ben can fight for her life. Johnny comes back and gets Barbara. And by Johnny comes back, I mean, he is a zombie. He gets Barbara, and we see her like, she sees him, and she is carried into the sea of zombies, and Ben flees. And we actually, at that point, see the OG zombie from the cemetery, or cemetery ghoul. And this is like a fucking block party from hell. Everyone's coming in. No one has brought any apps. No deviled eggs, nothing.
Not a bun.
Not even a bottle of blood. Nothing. So Ben goes down into the cellar and he sees Cooper. He shoots him again. He shoots Helen. He knows what's going on. He sees the change. And he is now stuck in the basement alone. And he hears the zombies upstairs and they're starting slowly but surely, he has the door locked pretty securely and they're losing interest in the door and they're moving away. And I was actually thinking about this from the perspective as an actor, just like from an acting perspective, how both fun and terrifying like that scene would feel.
Oh,
I
know.
Time passes and it is the morning and we see no zombies almost. And the sun is out and it looks like a normal bleak ass fucking Pennsylvania day. There was a helicopter in the distance and the LL Bean Farmer's Catalog models walking through fields. We see news TV coverage and now they have dogs, which also I'm confused about the dogs. Because are the dogs actually helpful? Because if the dog gets bit, are we talking zombie dogs? What's happening?
I think that we should fucking leave dogs out of our shit.
Ben is obviously sleeping restlessly because obviously this is the worst part of the whole fucking movie, obviously. So they are all these white dudes wandering around. They are shooting zombies as they are walking in the fields and they arrive at the farmhouse. And Ben hears the sirens. We see them shooting zombies. And so Ben's at this point, he is not 100% sure what is going on, but he comes out with his gun and he's hiding a bit behind one of the windows that's boarded up. So there's partially a boarded window, partially not. One of the fucking asshole dudes says, yeah, there's one of them in there, get him. And he shoots him straight in the head. And then they go in and they look at him and they say another one for the fire. And we close out this whole fucking movie on an image of Ben dead and these white guys standing over him with hooks. And it is all horrible. And in the credits, we see the bonfire. So
yeah, they just throw him into a mass. Ugh.
And if I could say one thing, it's a fun fact I have here. It's not very fun, but so it is that Dwayne Jones apparently fought against an alternate ending that would have saved Ben. So one of the film's most famous elements is its very grim ending, in which Ben, having survived the night, is shot by the sheriff's zombie hunting posse and thrown on the fire. At one point, a happier ending for the film was considered, but Jones fought it. He said, quote, I convinced George that the black community would rather see me dead than saved after all that had gone on in a corny and symbolically confusing way, Jones said. The heroes never die in American movies. The jolt of that and the double jolt of the hero being black seemed like a double-barreled whammy. It's a very tough scene to watch. We're watching it how many years later, but it's still a very, very tough scene.
It's heartbreakingly perfect. Everything short of just lynching.
Well, I gave it a 9, just in the sense of it's one of the first films to graphically depict a violent murder on screen. Mm-hmm. It is one of the last big hits of the drive-in era, but it's one of the most successful independent movies that were ever made. And part of what I liked about this movie, despite everything, is that Reader's Digest in 1968 tried to get people to stop watching it because they claimed that if you watched it, it would inspire cannibalism. You'd become a cannibal if you watched it. Yeah. And I love that shit. I love when people are so afraid of something that it develops its own lore. Blaine went into this earlier that they were taking this film to wrap it all up Martin Luther King had been assassinated. To watch this movie, it was very poignant. It hit progress and lack of progress and fear and true horror. Right. Yeah, I think it's a movie that I will remember for other reasons than being scary.
For me, I gave it a 6. Just going into this, it's important to know that for me, Night of the Living Dead has always just been there. It's always been part of my repertoire, not just for horror movies, but movies in general. It's something I would just turn on when I needed some comforting background noise, or I wanted to listen to music with a cool movie in the background as a soundtrack type of deal. And it wasn't until my 20s that I was like, wow, fun facts of this movie are really fucked up. And I'm not happy about the way women are depicted. I'm not happy about Dwayne Jones's tenure there.
and I'm not happy about Romero's insistence on sexism and racism for kitsch or for shock and awe. It comes down to, I will always come to this movie. It is not only entertaining, there are some truly creepy parts of this movie. And I know, Emily, that's a big factor for you as to whether or not it scares you. But there are some really chilling moments, you know, in a societal sense and also just in a horror movie sense where I'm like, oh, god damn, they did such a great job there. It paved the way for a lot of improvements, is what I will say.
Like Blaine, this has always been a part of my zeitgeist. Like it's a part of the landscape of your life at some point, which I know sounds crazy, but like I literally walked up to people and just like shouted, "They're coming for you!" Like it's just ubiquitous with horror, you know. So it's hard to rate it in general because part of you is like, well, everyone's fucking seen it. It feels like the same old shit. But like you have to look it through the lens of like this was the OG shit. Like it's impossible to feel like, oh, a zombie movie, like because they invented the goddamn game.
Right.
And I really struggle because it wasn't until much later, probably wasn't until I was like 25, that I learned of some of the issues. I always assumed it was intentionally a social commentary. You start with Ben. And obviously, this is my first time reading this since I wrote it, so I apologize in advance. So throughout this movie, Ben has done all of the labor to remedy a situation that he's the victim of. He has to think on his feet and go above and beyond what anyone else has done, above and beyond what anyone else has done in order to keep himself and his others safe, while Barbara is willfully ignorant, trapped as a perpetual bystander in her own body. Ben does everything to shield Barbara from the atrocities and the gore that are around them, telling her not to look at zombies, and he's ultimately sacrificed, and Barbara does the bare minimum that's asked of her and even gets a more glorious death in the film itself. She's in battle, you know? She finally springs to life and gets like a heroine's death, which she does not fucking deserve.
I did not even think about that. God damn it, you genius.
Well, and it's again like it's how many black women have to be murdered in the street, and that and no one fucking talks about it, and then you have, you know, a pretty white girl killed somewhere or taken somewhere. Cooper literally chooses to stay underground, literally shoving his head underground, refusing to join the front lines in warding off zombies. His attitude is very clearly every man for himself, so long as everyone else is guarding the front door. At this point, at every turn, Cooper chooses to literally not face the monsters of its life. He refuses to look outside or come to the aid of his party members. He demands to have the best of both worlds, isolation in the cellar and the amenities of being upstairs. While he fully embraces the security that Ben provides, he rejects the idea of assisting him in this process. Mr. Cooper's response to adversity is also very, very telling. When the newscaster announces that these reports are not a result of mass hysteria, he's outraged. What do they think? We're making this up? Conversely, Ben is calm, showing that he is more emotionally intelligent and that this is not the first time that he's in a crisis situation. Cooper's greed turns fatal in an attempt to steal the gun from Ben and ultimately the group at large. So Tom seems to know Cooper is wrong and stubborn. He's a classic Republican freshman at college, first time realizing that his LGBT friends may in fact have souls after all. He tries to push back, but he addresses everyone as Mr. and Mrs. Everyone, of course, except for Ben. He decides to look outside. He does face the zombies, but again relies on Ben to take the lead, only coming to the aid to assist in taking the glory and ultimately getting the girl on screen, which again is a luxury that Ben never gets to have, even after showing the women of this film more respect than anyone else. Tom isn't ready to take on emotional labor, putting that burden on Ben and Judy as he is used to the rest of his life. Barbara! Barbara! Epitome of crippling anxiety. Her constant attempts to pour from an empty cup only loosen her grip on reality. She is only forced back into reality when Ellen's life is at stake. She quickly acts trying to become the heroine, realizing that she has been ill-equipped, perhaps by being fluffed by the men around her in her life. Her brother, for example, not only drove her to the cemetery on the day of the anniversary of her father's death, her brother also proceeds to tell a story where she stands by as a victim, watching her brother being hit. Finally, she steps aside as her brother is killed, and only after someone else is there to take responsibility does she realize that, yes, we should go back for my brother who definitely sacrificed his life for mine. Refusing to accept that their child has turned into a monster, Helen is ultimately killed by her ignorance. I would write more about her here, but she's one-dimensional. Her character is I hate my husband and I love my child. It's not exactly brilliant, it's not exactly breathtaking, but damn did her eyebrows work. In the end, Ben is murdered. The headlines will mention the heroics of law enforcement saving the day. Ben will be a statistic, a number amongst the masses lost too soon with the promise of thoughts and prayers in the place of justice and progress. How harrowing and true does this feel today?
Had anybody else survived that, they would not have credited Ben.
So that's fun. So I give this movie a 7.
By the time this airs, we may or may not have our election results. It's really irrelevant because the work to be actively anti-racist and to confront our, as white people, confront our white relatives and coworkers and people we interact with on the daily, and ask how they are being anti-racist and to educate them. And it's on white people who outlandishly voted for Trump and made this election so narrow to pick up the pace and give credit where it's due. And that's by showing up. We love you. Black Lives Matter. Trans lives are important and they matter as well. And take care of yourself. Drink water.
Drink, hydrate. But we are drinking alcohol, so later.
I mean, we're drinking a lot. We're doing some things.
It's been a week.
We have liquids.
Butterfingers. We got water. We got wine. We got other things.